Spider-Man is one of the most beloved superheroes present in the Marvel Universe. He may not be your favourite, but he is liked. While his seemingly nerdy exterior and seemingly humble powers might fool you, this Spider packs a punch. In this video, we'll look into some of the lesser known powers that Spider-Man has had over the years. Who knew our Spider-Man could fly? Or have stingers like that of a scorpion? Some powers were loved by fans and still being explored. Some powers were a one-hit wonder. Let's take a deep dive into these amazing powers of Spider-Man with this video. Now, just before we go into our video, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is just a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you very much. Let's begin. Spider-Man's incredible healing power. When we think of the term healing power, the first thing that comes to mind is Wolverine and his ability to heal. Anybody remotely interested in the Marvel Universe knows that, but what they often forget is that our adorable photographer and web slinger also has a healing ability. While it may not be as potent as Wolverine's, it still plays a crucial role in protecting and aiding Peter after facing brutal encounters with villains who far surpass his physical strength. The healing is not instant, as that would be preposterous. Although it takes some time, it is significantly accelerated compared to any other superhero with similar powers. Spider-Man and his Uni Power. Spider-Man is famous for being a nerd. We've seen him in labs way too many times, and as we know, sometimes labs can be dangerous when you're researching unknown things. That is exactly what happened when Professor Lubitsch was trying to see if the energy field he theorized was real or not. This led to the university power supply being overloaded, and while trying to protect Professor Lubitsch, Peter fell in the way of an energy that was out of this dimension. This energy made Spidey super sensitive to everything around him. At first, he was able to hear everything that was happening around him in an amplified way, but then, eventually, when he focused more, he was able to regain control. This energy made him more powerful too. He started shooting webs as well as beams of energy from his fingers and could even crush a rocket without even touching it. He was stronger than before, and this was explored in the Spectacular Spider-Man storyline in issue 158. Is Spider-Man resistant to radiation? There is a question that we can ask ourselves when we have a bit of free time at hand. We all know how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. He was bitten by a radioactive spider. So does that make Spider-Man himself radioactive? Well, while there's a lot of debate about him being radioactive or not, there is one thing we are sure of, which is this: he is not bothered by radioactivity. I mean, with the radioactive spider bite, it either gave him immunity against radioactivity, or it made him radioactive as well, and then that also made him immune to radioactivity. In the 30th issue of The Amazing Spider-Man, Peter is not radioactive. We know this because Peter is almost killed by Morlun. Morlun is a villain who's hell-bent on hunting down anyone who's like Spider-Man because they are a spider totem. Now, Morlun did that by draining the spider totem and feeding on it. Morlun kept showing up wherever Peter was, and when Peter could not figure out a way to defeat Morlun, he took a sample of Morlun's blood. Turns out Morlun has pure DNA. Do you know who does not have pure DNA? Peter, because the spider that bit Peter was a victim of radiation. With that knowledge as his armor, Peter injected himself with a hefty dose of radiation that was enough to kill a human, but only weakened him due to his immunity against radiation. So when Morlun showed up to feed on Spidey, he ended up getting burnt alive because radiation was not part of Morlun's diet. Can he peek into the future? Let's be honest, one of the coolest abilities that Spider-Man has is his Spidey senses. The ability to feel a bad thing before it happens is something that has saved Peter's ass way too many times that we could even count. I mean, how many of you saw the scene where Daredevil is being introduced into the Marvel Universe and there's a brick that's thrown through a window, and while Daredevil catches it, Peter has already held out his hand to grab it because his Spidey senses are that quick. This scene demonstrates his Spidey senses superbly. Due to the nature of his Spidey senses, sometimes our boy has seen the future. Maybe not in a profound vision sense, but definitely in glimpses that have helped him out of messy situations. But there is a version of Spider-Man who is very good at seeing the future. That is Kane Parker, aka the Scarlet Spider. His visions are more detailed and very much along the lines of premonitions. For example, Kane saw MJ's death in the 222nd edition of the Spectacular Spider-Man while he was trying to figure out who is a clone and who is the real Peter Parker. A version of Spider-Man can fly. Now, when we say Spider-Man can fly, we're not saying he's gulped down a couple of Red Bulls and gotten himself wings. When we're first introduced to Peter, his original suit had flaps that helped him glide through the air, almost like a flying squirrel. We also get to see this again in Spider-Man Homecoming, when Mr. Stark decided to do a few adjustments to Spider-Man's suit. One of them was webbed wings. These wings are structurally placed the same way the skin flaps of the flying squirrels are, but only on the upper half of the body. So instead of being from the elbows to the ankles, it's elbows to the waist. In issue 529 of Amazing Spider-Man, we get to see Mr. Stark change a few things about his suit, and that's where we get an instance of Spider-Man gliding through the air, albeit rather badly because he wasn't expecting to fly. But we all begin somewhere, so we can't blame him. We hope to see more of Flying Spider-Man. He has incredible metabolism. Metabolism is a process by which our body breaks down different substrates, good or bad. We know that whenever the superhero gets their powers, their metabolism increases. We've seen this happen when Spider-Man first gets his powers. His diet went through an overnight change, so we can safely assume that his metabolism is pretty high. While that high metabolism helps him stay fit and attractive, it also has other clear benefits. For example, his body can process and excrete any types of toxins that are unwelcome, and that includes alcohol. We get a very good example of that in the 38th issue of The Web of Spider-Man. Here, he got super drunk, as one does, but thanks to his metabolism, he was fine. So, Peter Parker can certainly be the designated driver when you have your drinking party. That also means if he's shot full of tranquilizers, enough to kill, say, a giant horse, he would still be fine, because that has happened. In the storyline of Kraven's Last Hunt, Kraven decides the best way to dispose of Spider-Man is by tranquilizing him to the fullest and burying him underground. But just like a secret, Spider-Man isn't gonna stay 6 feet under, so 2 weeks later, Spider-Man is back swinging around New York City, trying to catch vermin who Kraven had released to wreak havoc. Spider-Man is gifted with night vision. The other storyline explored a lot of powers of Spider-Man that can be directly correlated to the arachnid he is named after. It's because in this arc, when Spider-Man seemingly dies, he lets go of his human self, almost like he's shedding himself as a spider would. When he finally emerges, he finds out that his vision has improved. We all know that scene from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man where Tobey Maguire realizes that his vision has improved either from the movie or from the meme. But in this storyline, Spider-Man developed night vision. This night vision power of his was not like the goggles from Jurassic Park, you know, the heavy ones, so you probably should put them back. Instead, his was much more defined and organic, and it allowed Spider-Man to move a lot more efficiently in the dark without expensive headgear. This also allowed him to save a lot of people who were stuck under a building that exploded. A version of Spider-Man could grow extra limbs. A quick question for all. How many limbs does a spider have? 8. We all know that. But how many limbs does Spider-Man have? 4. 2 upper limbs and 2 lower limbs. Now that's not very spider-like. So in order to change that, we had 3 6-arm sagas thanks to Stan Lee. In this saga, Spider-Man doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. He wants to be Peter Parker and have a good life with Gwen Stacy. He wanted to be happy, which is what all of us want. So how do you get rid of the spider in Spider-Man? Well, Peter thought making a concoction would help. Spoiler alert, no it didn't. When Peter woke up from his potion-induced slumber, he found out that he had grown 2 pairs of arms from his torso. So, armed with 6 arms and 2 legs, our dearest Spider-Man failed to be less spider-like. So he went to Dr. Connors to try get some help. Leaving the professional at his work, Spider-Man hid out in Dr. Connors' Southampton apartment to recuperate, where he got attacked by Morbius. After all the shenanigans, he finally got his bipedal human state back, when the cure turned out to be Mobius's blood. He can communicate with spiders. We have a few superheroes in the Marvel Universe who can speak with their insect counterparts. For example, Ant-Man and Wasp. Spider-Man, even though he is one of those superheroes who's named after something from the animal kingdom, we never got to see him talking with spiders, but that became a thing when it came to Kane. Who is Kane? Kane is a clone of Peter Parker. He was made to kill Peter along with another clone who goes by the alias Ben Reilly. Both of them were made by Jackal. Kane was the result of the first attempt at cloning Peter Parker. While there was a mess up in the cloning process leading to deformities, Kane survived against all odds. In the 5th issue of Scarlet Spider, written by Chris Yost, Kane first finds out that he is indeed able to communicate with spiders. This communication helped him with saving a lot of lives while he was trying to get rid of a bomb with Wally Layton. Peter too got this ability at one point. In the Others storyline, he found out that he too can understand and speak with spiders. It was not as significant as it is in Kane's storylines, but in the Others storyline, when Peter got this power, he used it benevolently to save a lot of lives. The Queen tried to cause harm by releasing way too many spiders into the city. Oh, the storyline is an absolute nightmare for arachnophobes. But our dearest Spidey spoke with the spider and got rid of them, which makes you wonder if Spider-Man was real, would he always stay in Australia and get rid of spiders from people's homes? Yeah, I guess we'll never know. Spider-Man is bulletproof. Among all the superheroes we know and love, Spider-Man is not someone who is bulletproof. While his incredible Spidey senses do an amazing job at keeping him safe and allowing him to dodge bullets, sometimes, I suppose we do tend to forget that Spider-Man is just a man. He's like us. He bleeds, and if you were to shoot him, he would probably die. But Iron Man made sure that would not happen. In issue 529 of The Amazing Spider-Man, which was released on the 22nd of February 2006, Iron Man designed a new uniform for Spider-Man. Before, his uniform was just cloth, but this time Tony Stark added a few more add-ons. One of those add-ons being heat-resistant Kevlar microfiber. This cloth made Spider-Man very much resistant to small caliber bullets, so when there was a hostage situation, our dearest Spidey got on top of a car, ripped a hole and tried to speak with the kidnappers, who shot at him point blank, and Spidey came out unharmed. He also protected the hostage from gunfire using the same tactic, surprising the shooter, who expected Spidey to get hurt. Spider-Man is hardly known for his speed, but he should be. Finding a spider in your room is absolutely terrifying, but you know what makes it more terrifying? When you look away for a second and the spider just vanishes from your line of vision. Where did the spider go? Is probably something you and I have both said many times. Do you know who else said that, probably? And who else would probably relate to you? Every single villain in Spider-Man's universe. Because Spider-Man also got the zoomies of a spider. He may not be super fast and traveled through time like Flash can, but it would be completely wrong to think he doesn't have super speed. We've seen so many instances of Spider-Man bamboozling the villains by zipping about, frustrating them to the very core. So, clearly, while our lovely Spider-Man has gotten quite a few good qualities from a spider, we can also say he has gotten one of the most terrifying qualities from them as well. Did you know about Spider-Man's retractable stingers? Spiders have a lot of things. Fuzzy little knees, vibrant colours and whatnot. But on top of those things, you know what else they have? Fangs. These fangs are not like stingers in the slightest. So imagine the surprise that fans felt when Spider-Man randomly developed stingers. Yeah, that does seem weird, doesn't it? Well, in one particular storyline of Peter Parker's adventures as the web-slinging superhero, he's dying from radiation. Nobody from Bruce Banner to Black Panther can help him because they simply don't know how to slow down the way his radiation sickness is spreading. While battling with that, we have an antagonist called Morlun. Morlun obviously wants Spider-Man dead and decides to kick the elephant rather than the spider when it's down. When Morlun tried to attack Spider-Man in the hospital, MJ did her best to protect her dying husband. So she ended up being on the end of Morlun's aggression. When Morlun broke her arm, the spider part of Peter took over completely. Mustering whatever strength he had, Peter let loose his animalistic side, which let him have sharp teeth and stingers protruding from his arms. They were like daggers, and he used them to brutally kill Morlun before seemingly dying. This version of Peter is from the Other storyline, where he finds himself wondering if he is the spider who dreamed of being a man, or a man who dreamed of being a spider. These stingers injected a type of venom known as polyamine, which caused temporary paralysis. Right now, the only Spider-Man with stingers is Kane Parker, the clone of Peter Parker, better known as the Scarlet Spider. Now, this happened because while Kane was cocooned, much like Peter, he was approached by the Other. Unlike Peter, who refused to give in to the spider form, Kane gave into it. Kane accepted the animalistic spider form and was reborn with more spider-like features, such as stingers. Conclusion. Spider-Man was the first superhero for a lot of people. While Spidey is popular, he has a lot of underrated powers that were not remotely discussed as much as they should have been. These are just a few examples of those powers. While these are not the only underrated ones he has, we picked these out because we found them the coolest. My favourite would be all the powers Spider-Man gained from the Others storyline. But what about you? Which powers do you think are the coolest and the most underrated when it comes to our dear neighbourhood Spider-Man? And if you liked our content, of course, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.